He's on his way, and then we will start the meeting if you don't mind. Play the Jeopardy song while we wait. Thank you. Oh, shoot, I gotta get that other one. Will you pull your mic down? Or you got it up for reading? Okay. I just don't want people not to be able to hear you.
I'll let them back.
Oh. Hey, Natalie, you can sit on the front row.
Didn't know if they was gonna look at me. If you wanna pull up here, I think we'll still be far enough apart. Give you a place to work.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you. Thanks.
What's his name? John. John. Thank you, John. You can pull your mask down, but I can't. After the pledge allegiance.
things, right, dry support lift, fell off the darn thing, had to lay there for a while before it could get up.
Oh, no. Tony. Are you okay?
Yeah.
All right, let me help you get your chair.
It's getting old.
Well, sometimes you will sign that for me. At this time, we will call the meeting to order now that Mr. Coyer has arrived.
Sorry I'm late.
I'd like to welcome anyone who is viewing, and also I'd like to welcome the citizens back to the Town of Landis board meeting. We have not been able to have people due to COVID restrictions, and so we welcome you back here within Town Hall. And at this time, I would ask everyone to please stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would ask Mr. Leonard Barefoot if he could please make his way to the front for just a quick little thank you presentation.
Quick.
Well, I gotta move quick. My buddy and pal over here.
Oh.
It's okay. We've waited on you
Right.
for a long time. We appreciate you, Tony. Thank you. I think that I can speak for the whole entire board of the town of Landis and all the staff. From the bottom of our heart, we appreciate you. You came in a time of need that I think the citizens knew that we needed. I know that the board knew that we needed it, and I don't think we knew how desperately we needed it, but we did. And so I want to first give you a small little token that you can sit somewhere, and then there's a larger one that you can hang up, because I know you don't want to forget the town of Landis. And
Promise.
you promise.
I don't think you give that would be dementia or Alzheimer's.
Okay, well, I don't wish that upon anyone, but we want to thank you. So this is from the board, this is from some personal, and we want to thank you. We appreciate you so much. Thank you. We will move to the agenda adoption.
Mayor and Board, I move that we adopt the agenda as listed.
We need to
We need to
add
add 5A, a community service award.
With the addition of adding 5A for an additional community service award. I apologize.
That's okay.
That's all right.
All those in favor? Any discussion?
No.
All right. We will now move to citizen comments. Ms. Diane Seeger.
So we had an option this time to either submit a comment, or you could come in person and speak. And we had one comment submitted, and then we have one person to speak to you personally tonight. So I'll start with the comment that was submitted from Mr. Sam Debman. The board meeting of March 8th, 2021 confirms just how far the town of Landis has come in resolving our financial, operational, and personnel issues. A new level of experience, competency, honesty, and the ability to admit to, address, and resolve issues is exactly what was needed to overcome years of mismanagement and deceit. The days of using the excuse of fake news and ludicrous accusations to cover ineptness and complacency are behind us. We now have elected officials and a staff that is working diligently to correct egregious situation that has cost taxpayers an untold amount of money and set the town back years. Decisions are now being made based on facts and needs, not personal wants, wishes, and agendas. Thanks to the leadership of interim town manager Leonard Barefoot and continued efforts by newly appointed town manager Diane Seaford, and based on reports from the staff, the LGC, and fiscal year audit 2020, the town is well on the road to recovery. Instead of bashing the town and staff on Facebook and raising old, oftentimes irrelevant and negative issues at board meetings, it's time for our citizens to get behind the current elected officials and staff and help Landis once again become a town we can all be proud to call home.
Thank you, Sam.
And then we have Miss Nadine Cherry to address the board tonight.
Nadine Cherry, 410 West Garden Street in Landis. As I understand it, last month during the budget meeting, I heard Recreation Director Jessica Stamper would like for the pavilion to be moved to the Lake Collier Wilderness Park. I do not agree that this should be done. I think in all fairness to the citizens living on the east side of town, they should have some sort of place to go without having to go over to Lake Collier Wilderness Park unless they just want to go. I would like to know what the cost would be to move the pavilion.
Miss Cherry, that wasn't stated. It was stated about a playground moving, not the pavilion.
Keep us informed of what the cost will be to do this. Use our tax monies wisely. Last year, interim manager Leonard Barefoot changed the rules about citizens' comments. There is a 30-minute time limit per monthly board meeting with a 3-minute time limit per citizen. If time runs out before you get to speak, then you will have to wait till the next month. Thanks.
Next on the agenda, we have Mr. Rick Flo with us this evening.
Community.
Oh,
Service
5A.
award.
Sorry, I am so sorry. 5A as our amended agenda, recognition for a service award.
At this time, I would ask if Ward Bond with China Grove Troop 301 and his master could come up to the front, please. Okay. So this is Ward Bond. He is a senior at South River High School here in Landis, and as his service project for your for his Eagle Scout project, he went out to Lake Collier where he was able to build how many? 5 benches out by the lake for everybody to enjoy. And so I know that Jessica with Parks and Rec had put out a memo about that, and we've shared it all over town. He was unable to come in March, but we wanted him to come back because we wanted to be able to recognize him. So at this time, we would like to recognize Ward Bond from the China Grove Troop 301, and we appreciate your service, and we thank you so much for doing that for Lake Collier. And this is also for your troop as recognition from the town of Landis, and we welcome you back, anybody back, anytime to do any type of service award. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
One more minute.
Got material
So,
to
at
build
some point,
one
we'll
more.
be back in
All
touch.
right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and Board. We'll now move to Mr. Rick Flo and recognize him to lead us in a public zoning ordinance hearing.
Mayor, members of the board, my name is Rick Flo, and I'm here at a special request from the planning board and town staff to address a matter that we couldn't really wait much longer on, just so that everyone's aware. A little bit of background before you open the hearing for comments. My primary role is in developing your new land development ordinance and also working with the team that's working on your new comprehensive plan to comply with the new general statutes authorizing any type of standards for any kind of land use or development. What was pointed out to us was a concern in your current ordinances. So the document that's before you tonight is with respect to your current ordinances, and really will only be in place for a few months until your new ones take effect. But this was something very important, particularly as it relates to several items at the U.S. Supreme Court level that deal with signage. And that was a ruling that had been made some time ago. You'll see the whereases in the first page spell it out pretty clearly, that this is about balancing out the rights of all to speak through their signage. And so it cleans up two areas. The first part of this ordinance cleans up two areas. Part one deals with the signs that are typically that don't require permits. They're just exempt signs, and that's pretty conventional type of signage that you'll see around. Governmental signs, warning signs, a large number you'll see on page 2 of the draft, and it carries over into page 3, the machine signs, menus, a number of things. Your incidental signs like the open, the hours, the stuff like that. Your old ordinance identified these signs by categories that use the content of the sign. For example, and I'm going to paraphrase one, let's say a real estate sign or a political sign or a yard sale sign, and those are no longer legitimate ways to set standards for signage. You're no longer allowed to be able to read the sign to classify the sign. Now that case probably is a little bit problematic, and someday will be cleaned up a little bit more. And so we try to write the ordinances to fit within what we see today and what we anticipate later on, because if it's taken too literally, it means that even a warning or danger sign would be lumped in together, and we feel that that was not the intent, that the intent was on regulating commercial versus non-commercial messages. So that's a big part of 1 and 2. Prohibited signs are in part 2. And that's your snipe signs. That's the stuff people tack on telephone poles and things of that nature. And it goes on through some of the stuff that's done in the right of way, and that's on page 5. Paragraph G is a very important one, because you'll notice that there is an exception to the rule on that paragraph G on these signs put in the right of way, because the state of North Carolina actually has its own provisions for political signs on state-maintained right-of-way, which is, our opinion, is not consistent with the U.S. Supreme Court ruling, but that's kind of like us disagreeing with our parents and our grandparents, and we want to stay neutral. If the feds are our grandparents and the state's our parent, which we are political subdivisions of the state, then I write it that way to stay out of the middle of that fray, if you will. Now, while we were at it, we also ran into a couple things that were concerning, and part 3 is about that, and that is how the planning board was set up under a freestanding ordinance, and that's going to be moved into the new development ordinance, all inclusive. But for now, there were issues with it, and there were issues with the way that it appointed vacancies, and that it dealt with those that were beginning to be problematic with keeping the planning board at a functioning level. So that is cleaned up in there as well. And interestingly enough, it also in that particular provision set in place by meets and bounds description an extraterritorial jurisdiction, which the town had I think intended to relinquish a number of years ago through an amendment to its zoning map, but yet the meets and bounds description was still in your code of ordinances, so that is intended to clean that up. And then it will temporarily put in place the planning board provisions that are pretty much identical to what you'll see in your permanent ordinance that will be coming over the next couple of months. I know that's a long iteration, but there were several things in there that needed to go through in order to just make sure that we're in bounds on how these things are to be done. So with that said, Madam Mayor, I would then defer back to you to recognize any members of the public that would like to speak on this matter. Oh, incidentally, the consistency statement that's required for text amendments that have to do with zoning or subdivision matters is in the fifth whereas on the first page, because it's not consistent, but neither is it inconsistent with the plan. So I felt like we needed to speak to that. It's really driven by other matters that are beyond a land use plan topic.
Thank you so much. At this time, we will ask for a public hearing.
Mayor and Board, I move that we open to public hearing for the purpose of the zoning ordinance and the subsequent amendment.
Any discussion?
Second.
All those in, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
We will open.
Mayor and Board, we had one person sign up for the public hearing this evening, and that is Miss Nadine Cherry.
Nadine Cherry, 410 West Garden Street. I feel the sign ordinance should have been done long ago. Who will be the person to oversee this being done? In regards to the planning board membership, is there going to be a number of meetings a member is allowed to miss before being removed from the board?
Thank you.
I don't have anyone else that was going to speak this evening.
Okay.
So nobody's going to respond because this is,
Sure. If you would like to step out of the way, Mr. Flo will respond.
To the first question of the speaker, as far as the enforcement is concerned on any of these types of ordinances, they are done typically by the standard zoning administrator or the code enforcement officer that assists on violations for the zoning administrator. The new ordinance will actually have all of the sign provisions. This particular ordinance only deals with sort of the low-hanging fruit that needed to be cleaned up early on the exempt and temporary type signage and things of that nature. So that's who would be responsible for that, ma'am. On the second aspect, the ordinance itself that creates the planning board is not my recommended place to deal with all the meeting nuances. The rules of procedure are actually on the agenda for tomorrow night's planning board meeting. So when they recommend their draft of the permanent development ordinance, they will be sending up with that rules of procedure for the two boards, the planning board and the board of adjustment. Even if it's the same members, they're separate boards. And in that document, you will have the luxury to establish any type of attendance requirement or removal for lack of attendance requirement. There are built-in provisions for conflicts of interest and things of that nature, and also oaths of office for all planning board and board of adjustment members going forward. But I think that the planning board and certainly your staff would leave it up to you to make up your mind as to whether you wanted to institute any type of removal policy for someone who's absent. And the reasoning that the draft is the way it is because we appreciate our volunteers. And so I think everybody's going to defer to the leadership board to make a determination as to whether attendance requirements should be added or not. We'll be happy to add those if we're directed to. Okay.
I will add on that comment, the existing code of enforcement, the code of ordinance that addresses that does state 3 consecutive meetings within 12 months. However, it is a voluntary commitment on the planning board members, and that, as Mr. Flo just mentioned, is planning to be updated and amended as soon as tomorrow night. Currently, however, if you read through the code of ordinances, you would see 3 consecutive meetings.
That's all we had on the sign-up sheet.
Okay. At this time, we will ask to close the public hearing.
Since that's all that was on the sign-up sheet and we do have an open meeting, would you like to ask if there's anyone in the public that would like to speak, even impromptu?
Sure. Is there anyone that would like to speak in the public hearing?
With no one standing up or speaking, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This time we will move to adopt the minutes from the March 8th meeting, the March 30th meeting, and
That should be it.
that should be it.
Mayor and Board, at this time, I move that we consider adopting the minutes from the March 8th and March 30th, year 2021 meetings.
I second it.
Any discussion?
None at this time.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Mayor and Board, we have Mr. John Gaines with us this evening. He will be presenting to you an ordinance to consider directing the housing inspector to close the property located at 603 West Ryder Avenue.
Good evening. You have before you an ordinance, and I want to give you a little background on it. This ordinance is intended to give me permission to move forward with the process of closing the structure, the dwelling at 603 West Ryder Avenue. The reason for this is the occupants of this dwelling are currently living and have been living since, I believe, September without any electricity or potable water access because of lack of payment and having it turned off, which by law is a reason to allow for the property to be vacated and closed. In this process, we have sent a notice of violation to the owner of the property and to the occupants of the property and advised them they had 30 days to turn the water back on. They did not do that. It is well past that deadline. So we come to you tonight and we're asking for authorization to proceed. So we ask you to adopt this ordinance. In your packet, you may also see some other documents that are in conjunction with this. The law requires that if there is a dwelling that is occupied by somebody other than the owner of the property, that after you adopt an ordinance to close or an ordinance to demolish if it were that case, then we have to give the occupants of the house 30 days in which to vacate the premises. And then at that time, we can move forward with the action. Now, to go on beyond that, there's a second document on here which is got the red writing on it. It's a notice. So if you adopt the ordinance to close tonight, I will be proceeding over to the house and posting the notice to vacate and posting the unfit notice, and then we will proceed from there. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer anything about the process or what's going on.
About how long does that take once you post it?
They have 30 days from the adoption of, so they will have until May 12th to vacate the premises and take all their possessions and so forth. If they do not move out by that date, then we will have to move forward with what is called a summary ejectment. And that process is we turn it over to the attorney, he takes it to court, and it's basically the same thing as an eviction.
Okay.
And then after that time period, then we will proceed to board up the house.
Okay. Any questions?
Outside of the lack of public services, could you describe the condition of the property?
Well, the yard is full of all kinds of appliances and garbage and trash and so forth. I was aware of the fact that there were several dogs in the house, and I was notified the other day that animal control went in and determined that there are 24 dogs living in the house. I have not been in the house, but based on knowledge of other residences that I've been in that have been in that same situation, no water, no electricity, multiple dogs, most likely not cleaning up after them and so forth, it becomes a health and sanitation issue also. From looking at the outside of the house, I can also see that there's other issues that we would deal with under the minimum housing code if we were to do a full, complete inspection of the structure inside and out.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, I don't think I had any more questions. Anybody else have any questions?
You would post the property tonight?
Yes, I will. When I leave here tonight, I will post it.
Okay.
So what I need you to do tonight, if you see fit, is to adopt this ordinance, which would authorize me to move forward.
All right.
Mayor, I move we consider adopting this ordinance directing the housing inspector to close property located at 603 West Ryder Avenue.
I'll second that.
Any discussion at this time? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mayor and board, I got us a little carried away here and moving down through here to get you out of here a little quicker than we can. So we need to back up to item number 6, the ordinance that Mr. Flo presented to you. We need to take a vote on that.
Yeah.
All right, if we have a motion,
So moved.
have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And we have completed number 7 and have our vote on number 8.
8, yes.
We'll move along to the consent agenda. The consent agenda gives you several items that I did not want to have to take a lot of time going over this evening because we have a very lengthy agenda. The first one is consider a resolution authorizing the sale of real property located at Lynn Avenue. That is the property that we discussed last month and surplus and made available. We have accepted a bid on that, and we have properly advertised that property for upset bid and have not received any. So the resolution would be to go ahead and accept the sale of that 0.47 acres of land located on the western side of Lynn Avenue at its southernmost terminus for $7,000. Then we also have, I wanted to give you a quick report on our surplus property sales. As you know, we've been doing a number of property sales, and those have totaled $36,516.90. So that is a good thing. Hopefully some other folks are getting some use out of some items that we were no longer using. Also, we have one item that is somewhat of a carryover from last month. Last month, Ms. Ann Craven was here to present the audit. We have to officially accept that audit, so I just need to include that as a motion to accept the audit for 2020. Those are all under your consent agenda.
All right, do we have any questions regarding any of A, B, or C under the consent agenda?
I have one question on the surplus property. Does that money go back into the general fund, or does it go back to each department that the equipment came from?
It would go back to the fund where the equipment was located. So part of it went to general fund, some to sewer, and I think some to electricity.
Okay.
And police?
Yeah.
And, well, police is in the general fund.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay, okay. All right,
So I have one question regarding 9A, the resolution to sell real property on Lynn Avenue. I knew we made the recommendation from $5,000 to $7,000 for said property. That I was not aware that that the proposed buyer had accepted that.
They have.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. Just
Yes.
as a point of confirmation.
Yes.
And we put a stipulation on there on how long it would take to wrap this deal up.
We did talk about collecting it in a timely manner, yes,
Yes.
ma'am. I don't know that we put a specific
Okay.
date, but we did put collecting it in a timely
Okay.
manner.
Okay.
Yes. All right, at this time, we will ask for a motion for the consent agenda for items A, B, and C.
Mayor and Board, I move that we adopt and approve the items listed within the consent agenda.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? We'll move to number 10.
Mayor and Board, please consider appointment of a Board of Adjustment members. The Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial portion of the Planning and Zoning Board. It is typically comprised of members from the Planning and Zoning Board. This board will hear appeals made by the Planning and Zoning team, when necessary, provide interpretation on the ordinance, and rule on conditional use applications. Please consider the appointment of the following citizens to the Town of Landis Board of Adjustment: Mark Bringle, Sam Dedman, Catherine Drum, Dale Udi, Ron Fight, Ryan Nelms, Stephen Overcash, and Kim Swan.
Mayor and Board, I move that we appoint to the Board of Adjustment the members just listed.
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mayor and Board, I would like to recognize Mr. Zach Laschetti this evening, the Public Safety Director. He has a couple of items for your consideration.
Good evening. I'll keep this brief. I know it's a pretty long agenda, but I want to give you some updates on public safety. Mayor, last meeting you asked about our low-speed vehicle ordinance. Some citizens had reached out and wanted to know the process to get that taken care of. I've made that part of this agenda packet for you tonight. In that packet is the actual copy of the ordinance, which details what low-speed vehicles are allowed. Typically, we think of like gators or golf carts, things of that nature. But the ordinance actually spells out what the requirements are, what equipment needs to be on those vehicles, the inspection process, liability insurance. Some things we see quite often that people ask us, you do have to be 16 years of age or older with a valid driver's license. It's got to have all your typical safety equipment, mirrors, headlights, brake lights, turn signals. It's got to have the low-speed vehicle placard. There's actually a specification that it has to meet. They can't be operated on streets other than town streets, and they have to be in a 35-mile-an-hour zone or lower. The initial permit fee is $50, and the renewal thereafter is $10. What we would ask for citizens who are interested in getting a low-speed vehicle permitted in the town of Landis is to simply call the police department, make an appointment. That way we can try to minimize their wait. However, they're always welcome to show up. If someone's available, we'll try to take care of it. I've also included, as part of the ordinance, the checklist we utilize. So citizens can look at that checklist and make sure before they come, if they see it appropriate, to try to make sure they have all that before they get there, try to save them from making multiple trips. And we will add this, that's my intention, to add this as part of our new website. So this information will be available online.
Thank you.
So that takes care of the low-speed vehicle ordinance. Last Wednesday on April the 7th, we had a audit from Criminal Justice Training and Standards. They came to the police department. The last audit was done in 2016. I actually invited them in since I took over the police department as public safety director. I wanted to know where we were and make sure we're meeting best practices. So this was the first audit we had done since 2016. They looked at our training records on a random basis for the last 3 years. They found no issues with our training records. We're keeping proper documentation. Our folks are going to the proper training. So we're meeting all of our responsibilities in that regard. They did randomly audit 10 personnel files. There are certain things we have to have in those personnel files. After that audit, we found that we were deficient in 3 minor categories. We've already addressed 2 of those 3. The third will be addressed here shortly. We'll submit that proof to Training and Standards, and we'll be good to go. This just ensures that we're meeting their best practices and that we have everything we need for paperwork, personnel files for the police department within our purview. So we had that last Wednesday. We'd like to make the board aware that we have received official notification that our ISO inspection, our big fire rating inspection for the town of Landis will take place on June the 8th. So we are currently preparing for that. We were notified officially that will happen here on June the 8th. We are currently an ISO rating of 4, and is our intention and our hope to be able to improve that and hopefully save businesses and consumers perhaps insurance premiums on their insurance policies. A couple other highlights for you. We just, as of last Friday, received a prescription drop box receptacle. We're going to be installing that hopefully this week in the front lobby of the police department. That is a value of about $1,500. It is brand new. The SBI gave it to us free of charge. So we're going to add that to the website. We'll put some information out there, what citizens can and can't dispose of, but it'll be a safe and secure way to dispose of medications and other things within the lobby of the police department. I've been mentioning here before the car seat checking station for the firefighters. We received notification that is officially confirmed. We are now a permanent car seat checking station. We've had several people show up and already have their car seats checked. There is an appointment time that people can look at online. If at all possible, we ask them to stick to that. Otherwise, if we're here and they show up, we're happy to check their car seats and make sure that they're appropriately installed. Last month, I mentioned the National Night Out. Of course, that date hasn't changed. It's going to be August the 3rd. I do have confirmation that we'll be able to utilize the YMCA soccer fields for that event. So they confirmed to us this week that we can utilize their facilities. That's our intention, hosting National Night Out for this upcoming year. I also included in the board packet the first quarter report for the fire department. Just in summary, in the first quarter between January 1st and March 31st, we answered over 211 calls for service. That's right on par for what we expect, because last year we were right over 800 calls. So we're running the same number of calls up to this point thus far. Our average response time was roughly 5.5 minutes, and that same time period, cumulatively, man-hours wise, we had 594 hours of training across the entire department. And if you have seen the news or paid any attention here in the last week or so, there's been several major events that have happened in Landis and around this area. And I just want to thank our fire department, police department, and our mutual aid partners for all their help in those major instances.
I agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor and board, at this time I'd like to recognize Jessica Stamper. She is going to speak with you this evening about our Landis pool operations for the summer.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. So it does look like we are able to open the pool this season 100% capacity. So there will be no midday closings. There will be no restrictions that we had last year as far as how many we will have. It'll be our normal occupancy rating. So before COVID hit, we had gone over a couple of changes that we were going to do with the pool as far as, can you hear me? Mm-hmm. As far as the rates and the hours of operation. So I just wanted to go over that again for this season. And just kind of remind you what we were planning on doing then and consider implementing those changes. The rates that we were looking at were the daily admissions, $10 for an adult and $5 for a child, 3 and under free. Those have been the rates for a while, so we weren't changing those. The pool passes that could be purchased for a Landis resident would be the $125 for an individual or $200 for the family of 4. 2 additional passes could be purchased in that family for $25 each. The pool passes for a non-resident, the rate was $250 for an individual, $400 for the family of 4, and again, the 2 additional passes could be purchased for $25 each. One of the changes that I wanted to implement was making sure that each person that enters the facility does pay an admission fee. I think I had gone over a couple of the issues that we had where we were not requiring non-swimmers to pay, and that was just an abused privilege. And so if they are entering the facility, they do have to pay the admission fee. So the hours of operation currently are 10 to 8, Monday through Friday, Saturday 10 to 8, and Sunday 1 to 8. We were having to turn away a lot of private party rentals. People were inquiring about renting. So we were trying to keep that to every other weekend and trying not to have to close the pool so often for these private parties. So I had proposed that we change the hours of operation for the pool. Keep it the same Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. But on weekends, take it from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sunday, 12 to 6 p.m. That way we can reserve the pool to weekends only and have the private rentals on Saturdays and Sundays from 6 to 9 p.m. I just believe that making that change could bring in some additional pool revenue from the rentals, and then it could also help decrease salary costs on weekend shifts if by some chance the pool isn't rented that weekend. The projected opening date is Friday, May 28th. That's it's pending some pool repairs and it's pending the staffing available. So this year, that's also graduation weekend and Memorial Day weekend. So once we get all the staff hired and the repairs are finalized, we can make that determination. But right now, that's our pending opening date. And that last day will go through Monday, September 6th. Once the school resumes back in August, then the pool operations will be weekends only. Let's see. Pool passes will start being sold in May. They can be purchased at Town Hall or at the park office. I'll have designated times and days that they can be purchased, but other than those days, they can still come to Town Hall or the park office to purchase those. Once the applications are complete and the payments are made, the cards will then be issued at the pool the first time that they come. That way pictures can be taken, and we just won't be passing out cards, and they won't have an actual ID or card number to go with that person. So once all that paperwork's done and payments are made, they'll pick up the passes that day, the first time they come to the pool. We'll still have designated times, for our sanitation and for our cleaning. We're going to still keep up with all of the COVID, sanitation, and we'll have, the 6 feet. We'll try to space the furniture apart. We're still keeping up with all of the COVID safety. We're just not having to close midday and keep everything restricted like we did last year. Do y'all have any questions about the
I do.
upcoming pool?
This is just me. Have you thought about 10 to 7 on Saturdays and having parties from 7 to 10?
I don't know if 10 would just be too late when you think about, I haven't thought about that. I just know that if you're doing like a birthday party, a child's birthday party, I don't know that they would want to do 10. I know some of the church functions or, larger groups may not have an issue with that. I just don't know if that would.
And
not
will
be
the
feasible.
hours change if it's not rented? So if it's not rented, say 2 consecutive Saturdays, would you stay up until 8 on that Saturday or go ahead and close?
I just think keep it consistent. So on weekends, we just know that that's your opening and closing time. Because then you're still coming into the situation that we had before, where we were open until 8 all the time, and if we had a party, they would come and find out they were closed. So it just keeps the consistency there.
And no weekday rentals.
No. Because then you're closing early on a weekday. So I just think that if we just have designated days and times that they know that they can rent the pool, and there's designated times that they know the pool's going to be open late until 8 o'clock, it's just a consistent schedule.
We also felt like with the weekday items, those folks who are employed or working would have a limited amount of time to be able to come with their family if we close early during the week. On Saturday and Sunday, they likely are not as likely to be working, but throughout the week, they would have an opportunity to come after work with their family.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Could we,
Vote on it?
yeah, that would be good. I just would like to make sure that you are comfortable with the rate and time, and go ahead and give Jessica the opportunity to get the items printed to start selling those pool passes prior to our meeting in May.
I'm good. I'm good with that. Go ahead.
This is an item that needs a motion.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, please.
From you.
Mayor and Board, I move that we consider the Landis pool operation and fee schedule.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I would also just like to take a minute and thank Jessica. For our citizens, we have decided this year to operate the pool ourselves. So Jessica and Miss Amber Levi have been very busy hiring lifeguards and managers and concession workers and making sure that the pool is ready to go from an equipment standpoint. And we've got a few repairs to make, but other than that, we are getting really close. And I think it's just going to be a great change. I think you'll see a really good pool season this year. Thank you, Jessica, for all
Jessica,
your hard
while you're
work.
here, I need to say, Jessica, I want to tell you thank you for the job well done at the car show. I arrived
Absolutely.
late, but I've heard tons and tons of good comments
Thank you.
about how it was done and what a great job you did.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to recognize Ms. Pam Dubois. She is going to speak with you tonight about an interim purchasing policy and a change to our asset capitalization.
Good evening. I'll leave this on real quick.
Thank you.
Okay, so under the instructions of the manager, Diane Seaford, we are working on policies and procedures. During our last year of working through all of our financial records, we have not been able to find any policies or procedures available. They may be somewhere into old minutes or something, but we've done some research and we really don't feel that it is conducive for us to continue to look for things that we may or may not exist. So we just decided to start from scratch. So the first thing I wanted to give to you is this for issuance of purchase orders for the town of Landis. Currently, what we know of is if you wanted to get a purchase order, if anything over $150, we did a purchase order for. It is a ridiculously low number.
I mean, are you spending all of your day writing purchase orders?
Miss Janine is
She's an expert in purchase order writing.
I'm sure of it. I'm sure.
So, to evaluate records, we decided to use this current fiscal year that we are in because we know the staff that has done those purchase orders. So there has been 171 purchase orders issued from July through March 31st. From $0 to $500, there has been 74 purchase orders.
All right, hold on one second. I like to. $0
to $500, there have been 74 purchase orders written.
Okay.
From 501 to 750, an additional 21, to a total of 95. From 750 to 1,000, an additional 11 to gets us to 106. And the $1,000 limit is what we're requesting. So the items that we would not be doing purchase orders for: tires, chemicals, sand, gravel, repairs, uniforms, printed materials, materials for repairs, and services. What I just handed out to you would be the purchase order policy that would, one, start with the purchase order being completed and signed by the finance officer or a designee, if the finance officer is not here, to be valid. Without that proper execution, it would not be a valid purchase order. Purchase requisitions would require at least 2 quotes,
I like it.
or be a sole source supplier with a written explanation, means that nobody else sells that thing, particular item, with a written explanation from the department head, or to be a state contract purchase. The state has also done a lot of bidding, and we can go under the state contracts and not have to do the bidding ourselves, so we can utilize their information. The requisition would list the vendor's name, address, the products to be purchased, the amount of the requisition, and the quantity of what they're requesting. Then the purchase order process would be to issue that of anything exceeding $1,000. And if they don't get a purchase order and they buy something, they're responsible for paying for it. The town would not be responsible for that. Also utilizing blanket purchase orders, where when we go buy chemicals all year long to do something for water, sewer, or electric, we can do a blanket purchase order to the vendor in which we're going to purchase from for that year and utilize that purchase order throughout the year instead of issuing up to additional purchase orders.
Absolutely.
We're still meeting our requirements. And then there are several items I've got listed here, 13 of them on which we would not be doing purchase orders for at all, and that would be advertising, dues and memberships, claim payments, insurance premiums, land purchases, replenishing petty cash, postage permit and expenses, refunds, rental of buildings, subscriptions, tuition fees for educational purchases, utilities, and services. And those services would not be required to be bid unless the materials with the service exceeded $1,000. So I put that little caveat in there. And then there are always circumstances where there are emergencies. And water line breaks, it's midnight, they go get what they need, they come in the next morning, and we deal with it. So
Absolutely.
we don't want to not have that situation there. So I wanted to give you all that information. So this was the first item that we wanted to get fixed because we feel like this would be a much more productive use of time in regards to purchase orders and to actually have something voted on by the board.
Absolutely.
We will actually bring to you a more comprehensive purchasing policy, but we really didn't want to wait to put these things in place. It will be much more efficient and we feel like more effective. So if we could go ahead and get, this is kind of a skeleton, and we'll bring a much more comprehensive plan to you a little bit later on in the year.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of bidding rules and stuff that needs to be implemented into this, and that's all state statute and what the requirements are there, but that's a lot of language to get done, but this is a day-to-day operation that
Absolutely.
can really improve efficiencies.
All right. At this time, do we have a motion to insurance the purchase order of the town of Landis?
I can make that motion. Do you want to wait until she advises on the asset capitalization? We'll leave
Do you
this
want us
as a
to do it?
standalone.
It doesn't matter.
You can do it
Either way.
standalone if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do standalone. I don't want to confuse anybody that's watching.
Mayor and Board, I move that we consider the interim purchasing policy requested by Finance Director Dubois.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The second item is the capitalization policy for the fixed assets that the town purchases. This actually is in writing. It is in the notes to the financial statement, and when you accept the audit each year, you approve the capitalization levels. This page is also included in your document, and I have two areas that are in red that I would like to change. The land capitalization level was at $10,000. I feel it's prudent, and we keep track of every piece of land we have, no matter what it costs. So I would like to take the land capitalization level to 0. The second item was infrastructure, and most of the items like building improvements, substations, lines, plant, and distribution systems are at $15,000. Well, that's the same as infrastructure to me. So I don't feel like $20,000. I think it needs to go back to $15,000 to be in line. And to let you know that we're in the process right now of verifying all the assets for the town of Landis. Land and buildings are being tied to our tax records at Rowan County. Vehicles and equipment are being tied to our insurance policy and our maintenance records. And we'll be removing all the assets that we actually sold that Diane talked about earlier. So we're hoping to have a good set of records when we finish this year's audit of actual assets that we do own and that are in the town's name. So I wanted to let you know that that was also in progress along with this capitalization policy. And we will be removing items that don't meet this limit that have been on the books for quite a while.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Do we have any questions for Mr. Bois?
No.
All right, at this time, I'll ask for a motion to change the asset capitalization.
Mayor and Board, I move that we change the asset capitalization process.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
Mayor and Board, I don't really think we will need action on this, but I wanted to bring to you tonight some opportunities that are in front of us that we're supporting with the town, some ecumenical partnerships. And I am really excited. I think this brings a community together, gives us an opportunity to socialize and worship together, and just want to talk to you about 2 opportunities that we have coming up that we'll be supporting and partnering with members of our community. First of all, I think most of you are probably familiar with the Brook Church. The Brook Church helps support our movie nights. They provide the movie on those nights as we provide other opportunities there. They have come up and come to us with a great opportunity to have a week called Love Landis. And Love Landis is going to be the week of May 3rd through the 8th. And this is just, I think, a great opportunity for us to all spruce up a little bit for spring, do some spring cleaning, and the Brook Church will be helping some of our neighbors who might not be able to perform some of the things that they need done at their house any longer. They're partnering with Rowan Meals on Wheels to find people who need some assistance and make sure that we're helping our neighbors, and they'll be providing some work that we're meeting with them this week to see if we have projects that we need to have done throughout the town. Jessica Stamper and I will be meeting with them on Thursday to look at other service projects that they can help us with. To partner with them, we are offering some services ourselves. We will have dumpsters available for household items. All of these services will be at the Public Works facility. So we'll have a dumpster there like we did last year for dumpster days. We would request that you not bring electronics. We will have a shredder available for those of us who have lots of paper that we need to shred and make sure stays safe with information on it. That will likely be on Saturday. Keep an eye out on our website for the specific date, but I anticipate that will be on Saturday. We're working on confirming that with the vendor. And last but certainly not least, we have a lot of free mulch that is available to our town citizens. That mulch comes from our leaf and limb collections that we do throughout the year, primarily in the fall. That will be available as well, and we will have someone that can load your pickup truck or your trailer if you would like to use that in your garden or wherever at your house. There will be more information available on picking up that material also on our website as we get that confirmed as well. In addition to the Brook Church, we have had the First United Methodist Church reach out to us to help promote their community garden. So we just want to give a heads up to them. Many of you may not be aware that each year they plant a garden here in town near their facility, and they've asked if we would be willing to publicize that on our website. So when those vegetables and fruits come in, we'll post that, and you are welcome to stop by their little stand and take anything you would like at no charge. So we are excited about everyone in our church in our neighborhood pulling together and offering lots of different services to our citizens.
Thank you so much for that, and we appreciate the Brook Church and also First United Methodist Church. And we will also thank our Public Works Department for going to be there to volunteer for those days. We will move to the tagline.
Yes, Mayor and Board. The next item also does not really necessarily require any action, but I wanted to bring to you tonight, as you know, we've been working diligently on our new website. That is going to be a lengthy process. but we have found a photographer that will be out and about over the next couple of months to capture lots of activity that we have going on in the town and start getting us ready to put those things on our webpage. And as part of that, you'll notice that a lot of websites have a little tagline up in the corner, and we've been working to come up with that to kind of accompany our new Landis logo. And so we have come up with, you will see in your packet, a Town of Landis, the future is bright logo or tagline that will feature in the corner of each one of our web pages. And so we wanted to bring that to you, kind of keep you up to date a little bit on what we're doing with our website development and how we're moving forward with rebranding ourselves.
I like it. All right.
I also wanted to take this opportunity, Mayor and Board, to talk with you a few minutes about our proposed budget calendar. I will need you to adopt this. This is one of the things that our state auditor wanted to make sure that we do each year is actually have a budget calendar. And so we have been working over the last week or so to get our preliminary information out to our department heads. They have now received a document that shows the last year's actual numbers, the 2020 actuals, a year to date for this year, and a budget for this year. And then they will fill in the next column, which will be their request for the upcoming year, provided the information that we have available currently for them, and they will be submitting that back to us. Next Wednesday and Thursday, we'll have department head meetings individually. Ms. Dubois and I will meet with them, and we'll go over their request. We'll then take that information and balance it to bring to you a proposed balanced budget. So we distributed the information on the 7th. We'll be having review meetings the 21st and 22nd. And I would like to request that we have a May 3rd Board of Aldermen budget meeting with presentation of the draft balanced budget. Then on the 10th, which is our regularly scheduled meeting, if we have any remaining items, we could add that to that agenda and finalize that information. On May the 24th, the balanced budget and approved budget by you would be available for the public. And then on June 14th, we would have the public hearing and adoption of the 2021-2022 Town of Landis budget. So certainly that's open for change, but I wanted to give you something to consider.
May 3rd, what time would we be meeting?
That is whenever is convenient for you is good with us.
5 o'clock? 5:30?
Do 5:30.
5:30? Okay.
5:30, Gerald?
Yeah, it's always on Mondays.
Yeah, this is going to be on a Monday.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Monday, Tony. We'll send you out a reminder.
The 24th.
The 10th, we'll be having a regular meeting anyway.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
And then you don't have to do anything on the 24th
Okay, and then the 14th,
is our regular meeting.
okay,
We'll have the public hearing at that time.
yeah, I'm good. What time is that?
5:30 on May the 3rd.
All right, and you would like for us to vote on this, correct?
If you will, please.
Okay.
Mayor and Board, I move that we consider this budget calendar.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mayor and Board, I would like for you to please consider proposal to select an audit firm. As you know, we had the same audit firm for probably, I don't know how long, a long time. And then this past year, we moved to Miss Ann Craven, who did a great job coming in at the last minute and trying to help us out. But we felt like because the audit had not been bid in quite some time, that it would be appropriate to take bids for that opportunity to come in and do our audit. So we sent out, we also wanted to tell you that will be a 3-year contract.
Okay.
Most firms want to work for at least 3 years because it makes it easier for them once they get to know a town to know that they can give us a better price knowing that they have the work for 3 years. So we received responses from 3 companies. Miss Ann Craven, who submitted a bid of $13,000. Gibson and Company, who submitted a bid of $26,000. And Martin Starnes and Associates that submitted a bid of $19,000. We would like to move forward with Martin Starnes and Associates. That is not the most economical bid. It is not the lowest bid. But their bid was by far the most comprehensive. They sent us a packet of 3 different books that explains exactly what their process will be, introduced us to each member of their staff, and gave lengthy explanations of exactly what would be expected from us, provided us with a calendar of when they will be here and when we can get the product returned to us. And while it's not the cheapest, I do think it will be worth the extra to get the quality that we're looking for and to ensure that we are getting the best, that we can meet our deadlines and that we are in good standing.
Absolutely.
I just think it's, Ms. Dubois was telling me she's been attending several CPA classes over the last couple of days, and part of that was with the LGC and the state treasurer's office, and they went into lengthy discussions about how important it is to have an audit and make sure and understand that you pay for what you get. So their audit stood out, or their bid stood out amongst all of the competitors. And obviously it's not the most expensive, but neither is it the least expensive. So I would just encourage you to go with Martin and Starnes. Once we have that approval from you, the next step will be to notify them, and then we'll bring a contract to you next month.
Okay.
Mayor and Board, I move that we approve moving forward with Martin Starnes and Associates as our selected audit firm.
I second that.
And let me say that is to consider the proposal for the fiscal year of 2021 through 2023. That would be for 3 years, in case anybody missed that. Any discussion at this time? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, I would just like to have you consider the financial reports. We have put those in there for you. I don't have a detailed dialogue for you on those this month. You're welcome to call me with any questions that you have, but I knew we would be diving into those numbers pretty deeply as we start looking at the budget. So I won't take your time with that this afternoon, but I think you'll be pleased with where we are. And then, if you will, I would like to take a few minutes and have you consider a manager's report.
Absolutely. Go for it. First time.
I
Let's hear
know. Well, first and foremost, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for the opportunity to serve as your new town manager. I didn't get an opportunity to do that back when you actually appointed me, so I just want to say thank you. Your confidence in me and the current town staff means more than words can express. I'm excited to be part of a bright future in Landis filled with positive growth, deepening roots, and lots of fun for all of our citizens. This is a great place to raise a family, make friends, and grow older. I want to help the mayor, board, staff, and citizens make it even better. Together, the future is bright. For a small town, I continue to be amazed at how much we have happening each and every day. I come in with my list of things to do, and usually at the end of the day, I have more things on that list, but didn't get to mark very many off. We have a lot of items on the agenda already, and we have now had 2 staff meetings since my appointment. The department heads are excited to be informed on what is happening in all of our departments and have committed to working as a team to get our large projects done. As mentioned earlier, we are currently working on the budget together, and we're putting together a chart of all the policies that we need, when they were adopted, where they're housed, and we'll be tracking our progress on making sure that we get those completed. I also wanted to take a few minutes tonight to update you on one of our near and dear contracts to everyone's heart, the Waste Pro contract. We get a lot of feedback from our citizens on garbage collection. And so I wanted to let you know that we met with Waste Pro last month, and the Public Utilities Director and I met with the Assistant Division Manager, the Operations Supervisor, and the Route Supervisor to discuss our concerns and theirs. Waste Pro says that we have a disproportionate volume of trash to the number of citizens. And as we have discussed in the past, this volume is somewhat attributable to discontinuing our recycling program. We also discussed that subject and were told that recycling market is no longer viable for most products. Because of that, a lot of items that our citizens believe are recyclable are not. Therefore, most of the time when we would take our recycling to the recycling center, it would be rejected. And at that point, it would have to be taken then to the landfill where we would pay additional fees. So it was very, very costly for us to run that recycling program because it was very rare for any of our materials to be accepted. So we understand the need from our citizens and the desire from our citizens to be good stewards of our world and recycle. But the market for those recyclables has gotten so small that it is very difficult to really make that work and be cost effective to us as a town. So we would encourage you, there are locations throughout Rowan County that take recyclables, and we would encourage you to continue doing that, but take them to a recycling center where they're more likely to be actually recycled and used because of the way that they collect them. They also believe, they being Waste Pro, that we have a number of citizens that have multiple cans, and we're only showing them on our roll with one can, or that maybe we have a lot more citizens than we reported to them. So we are going to be doing an audit with them. We will have a member of our Department of Utilities right along with their person, and we'll actually tally on collection day the garbage cans that are out and the numbers that are out, so that we can accurately make sure that we are reporting those correctly. That was supposed to happen last week, but we had an injury to one of our individuals and we weren't able to participate. So I haven't had an opportunity to speak with the utility director yet to find out how that went today, but I'm anticipating that we did part of that today. They were thinking it would probably take at least 2 weeks to get that data collected. We raised the issue of service level and the number of times our route is not completed in a day. The audit will also help Waste Pro to determine how many vehicles we need to pick up, how many trucks we need to run the route each week based on what we know we actually have. Right now they have committed 2 to us, and if they can keep those running, they should be able to do it in a day with 2 running.
Fingers crossed.
We also expressed to them the need for better communication between Waste Pro and the town's staff, because when we have a breakdown, we need to be able to put that on our website and let the citizens know that we haven't forgotten them or coming, but it could possibly be Tuesday before we get there. So the utility director will now be receiving both an email and a text when we have a break in service, and then we will post that on our website and our Facebook page. We also are aware that we're currently short on trash containers. We expressed this concern, and we're told that there is a shortage in the industry in general, that they are having trouble getting those cans. However, we should be getting some more. We got our first delivery last week of 9 cans, I think, and hopefully we should be getting a few more in, because as soon as we get them in, they're already spoken for. We had more on our list than 9. So we just ask you to be patient. I do believe that Waste Pro is being honest with us in that we do have a shortage and they're having trouble getting those cans themselves. I also wanted to let the town know on a whole different subject. that we will be opening Town Hall back up to the public. We're at a point with COVID that we're going to be able to do that. We are making a few changes inside to hopefully brighten it up a little bit and make people excited to come in. So we would ask your patience for just one more week. We will open next Monday to the public. In the meantime, you are welcome to come up to our walk-up window. We would also encourage you that if you would prefer to come in person, but maybe aren't comfortable coming inside, that walk-up window will be manned, and we would encourage you to use that as well. Again, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to serve you and the citizens of Landis. I am really excited about the future and the opportunity to grow and become better together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. At this time, we will move to board comments. Mr. Evercash? Mr. Coyer?
Your actions and your responses have re-ratified me that you were the correct one to do the job.
Well, thank you.
And I'm really happy about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alderwoman Sells? Mr. Stewart?
I just want to take a few moments before we adjourn to sincerely and wholeheartedly thank the efforts of interim town manager, Mr. Barefoot. Without his leadership and guidance, we wouldn't be in this position today. So from myself as one representative and one citizen of the town, one member of the board, I want to say thank you very much. I really appreciate the guidance that you brought forth to the town of Landis in a very pivotal time. Secondly, I'd like to say welcome aboard to Ms. Seaford to serve as our permanent full-time manager. You rose to the top with a lot of experience in the items that I personally believed being very vital and exactly what we need to progress and move forward. I think your skill set was exactly what we needed at the right time, so I appreciate your willingness to be a part of our interviewing and vetting process, which hasn't taken place in this town in a long time. So thank you for bearing with us in that process and through all my questioning. Also, I want to thank all the citizens for being patient with us as a governing board, understanding our efforts of wanting to stay safe and remain safe. I know patience is a virtue, and it's also something that's very hard for some of us. So if not most of us. So thank you for being patient. Thank you for being socially distanced and wearing your mask while in the audience. I'd also like to say that my phone number is 704-200-8666. You can reach me at any given time. If you have any questions or comments or would like to see or hear as to what my opinions of my reasoning and information is to anything that I do or say as a board member and a servant, an elected official of you, the town residents. Thank you very much.
Ashley, I say this jokingly, but thank me for going through all those grueling questions.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Coyer.
We do appreciate that, Mr. Coyer. And he was on time for those, so we do appreciate that too. At this time, I would just like to thank everyone for viewing tonight. If you come back and watch later, we also appreciate that. I will address some issues regarding the paving that a couple people have mentioned, whether that be to me, whether that be on social media. If you go back and watch the January 11th meeting, there was a presentation by SEPI. They went out and they went through each individual street of our town very thoroughly. There's a presentation from them, and you can learn all about it. There is a project going to start. We do not have a start date, but we are in the works for that. And there will be 10 to 11 streets as soon as we can. It's a 3-year project. It lists them. It tells you exactly where. There's a map of them. Go out there and watch it. For a lot of people, there's a lot of questions, And those questions can be answered right here in the boardroom. You're free to go watch those YouTube videos. They play right back to you. We are live, so if you would like to tune in to those, we meet every second Monday at 6 o'clock. Second Monday, 6 o'clock. View live, or you can come back and view them. We appreciate you viewing tonight. If you're coming back, again, we appreciate everybody here in the town of Landis, our public works, our police, our fire, our staff. They're doing a great job, and we will welcome citizens back into town hall on Monday of next week. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.